do that in 30 seconds. So if we can do that in 30 seconds to quickly introduce ourselves in the chat, then we can proceed from there. Since I'm not typing, my name is Aisha Suleiman, and I'm joining currently from Nigeria. And I'm also from Nigeria as well. So please feel free to do the same in the chat so we can get to meet everyone. Okay. So we have the get it all from Nigeria. Who else is introducing themselves in the chat? Okay, we have Rock Senior. I hope I pronounced that correctly, from Benin, who also happens to be our guest speaker for today. Now I'm having this problem with the slides. Just click comment to fix that. I don't know, probably I'll stop sharing then. Georgette, can you share this slide for me? Because it's not working from my end. So maybe if you can just share it for me so we move quickly. Okay, so this is where we are right now. So it's a weekend and we don't intend to take too much of your time because we really appreciate the fact that you took out time from your weekend to spend some time with us in this webinar series. So we'll just take it very quickly and we're not going to waste too much time. So we'll proceed by doing an introduction of the organization, which is Green, and then we'll introduce the guest speaker. We have a little bit of fun activity or Q&A before the guest speaker's presentation, and then just closing remarks. So we'll just wrap it up in, let's say, 45 to 50 minutes or even less. Next slide, please. So introduction, we're talking about Green. So Green is the organization that is hosting this webinar series. And what we do basically is, empower Africans with the right information on how to move towards a clean energy transition. The world is moving towards net zero, and Africa shouldn't be left behind. So that is what we are doing at Green. And then our vision is to build a community of network, like-minded people who are willing to take the issue of climate change or climate action to the next level. Next slide, please. So before I introduce the team, which you can already see from the screen, I would like to talk a little bit about the series that we have started today. We are very excited because after a few months or many months of works and on the ground back end work and stuff like that, so we're finally launching the series today, and we're very excited because we're starting with Benin. Not Angola, we're not following it alphabetically, but B is close to A, so that can work as well. So we realize that in as much as the knowledge of climate action sustainability is low, especially among African youths, we also realize that the knowledge of energy transition, the last COP, one of the COPs that was held, when the Paris Agreement was agreed upon, then most countries agreed to transition to net zero by 2050 at least, or 2060, depends on how feasible the plan is. Personally, I know that for my country, while the world is trying to achieve net zero by 2050, I'll say ours is a bit realistic because we know that as a developing nation, we will not be able to achieve that target at 2050. So the Nigeria Energy Transition Plan is looking at 2060 in order for it to come to fruition. So it's like almost a decade after the global standard that was set, which I think is very realistic. So the knowledge gap in this energy transition, it's quite low, especially among African youth, myself included. I was just thinking out loud one of the days, and I just asked myself, so if you're being asked, what is one action that a country like Mauritius or Seychelles is taking in terms of climate action or net zero? What are they doing that you feel Nigeria can adopt or adapt? I asked myself that question and I could not find an answer because I didn't know about anything that Mauritius as a country is doing, despite the fact, or Seychelles, despite the fact that they are from Africa. And the only thing I could think of was that it's a very nice vacation destination. You know, they have water and it's all beautiful, but I didn't really know anything about what they are doing in terms of climate action. And since we as Africans, it is easier for us to adopt policies and frameworks from fellow African countries instead of going to, Europe or South Asia or South America to adopt policies because we're all feeling the brunt of climate change and the effects are not that different since we belong to a certain continent, which is Africa. So this is the team, my humble self, which is in charge of research and coordination, and then we have Project Celestine Udo, who is in charge of technical aspects, which is a technical coordinator. She's from Nigeria. Then we have Mary Dora Kamara from Sierra Leone. She's in charge of our programs. Next slide, please. So before we proceed to introduce our speaker, I would like us to do a little bit of exercise. I know that this is not a classroom, but just to refresh our memory or learn something new about the country that we're starting with. I know a lot about my country, Nigeria, that's because I'm from there, but my level of knowing other people's country might not be the same. So I think we should, I'm not going to ask a direct question. I'll just put it open. So if you know any fun facts or anything at all about Benin, maybe in terms of their official language, their currency, anything you know about Benin, you can just, tell us in the comment section or in the chat so that others can learn, and then you can also learn from what other people have to say about the country. So I'll be in the chat reading what you have to add. So just tell us anything you know about the country Benin. Welcome, Tayo. So nice to have you here from Benin as well. Okay, we have from Mary, their currency is franc CFA. Okay, yes, that is correct. But anything we say here and it's not correct, I believe our speaker will try to clarify that for us before he continues or begins his presentation. So their currency is franc CFA, yes, West African franc CFA. Benin has 12 departments and 77 local governments. Okay, 12 departments. I'm assuming that for the case of Nigeria, it's probably states. So my memory serves me right. We have 36 states in Nigeria and the FCT. If we're including that, it should be 37. And then I think we have about 774 local governments, which is quite huge if you ask me. So what else do you know about Benin? Tell me. I'd like to learn. Okay. If I don't see anything in the chat, the next 30 seconds, then I'll assume that probably this is all we have. This is all we have. Before I proceed to say some of the fun facts that I've actually researched or I currently know about the country Benin. I hope I'm pronouncing it correct. Benin. Okay, I'm guessing that's it. Um, so okay, in addition to okay, Benin is part of the ECOWAS country. Yes, we all know that ECOWAS is West Africa. So Benin is in West Africa, and just like Mr. Joseph rightly said, we have 12 departments and 7 local governments. This is totally a new knowledge for me and probably anyone else here who does not know that already. So I found some interesting things apart from their currency, which is West African franc CFA. I know a lot of people have misconception, like you ask them, what is the capital of Benin? Like for Nigeria, our capital is Abuja. But if you ask some people, they'll probably tell you it's Lagos because that's like one place that they know in Nigeria. So I think Benin has something similar that when you ask somebody, oh, what's the capital of Benin? They tend to say maybe Cotonou, but that is not correct. So the capital of Benin is Porto Novo. You can pronounce that if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So I don't know if our speaker or Mr. Joseph can confirm that in the chat. And then another interesting thing that I also found out about Benin is that they were formerly known as the Kingdom of Dahomey. And for someone who loves to watch movies, especially African-based movie, if you've watched The Woman King, you would realize that it's talking about one of the history of Benin. And it's actually nice to know that they're formerly known as Dahomey. I think I would have actually preferred they are still bearing that name till now, but I mean, everything happened. So moving on, we would introduce our speaker, who is going to be telling us about the energy transition plans, sustainability actions, climate action, everything that I believe each country have their NDC, which is like nationally determined goals. So in order to reach the net zero target by 2050 or 2060 or even beyond. So Mr. Josie, sorry, correct me. Or let me just call you Rock, Mr. Rock Senior is going to be is going to be taking us through this presentation. And just to introduce him a bit, he is a young energy professional from Benin, and he holds a master's degree in energy and power technology. Obviously, he is passionate about energy access and sustainable development, especially in rural areas. And he has worked on projects that has to do with implementation, spanning around West Africa, East Africa, Europe, and even Turkey. So currently, he is the technical advisor with GIZ in Benin, and he is mostly focused on solar technology deployment for rural electrification, which I think, or which I know rather, that it is, very, very important. So without wasting too much time, I would like to welcome Mr. Rock Senior to begin his presentation.
All right, thank you very much, Aisha, for this introduction, and good afternoon. Please, am I audible enough?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thanks. And thanks for inviting me to this first edition of the Green Energy series in Africa. It's actually a pleasure for me to be the first speaker, and I very much look forward to the other speakers to come to also learn from them and learn from what is happening in their respective countries. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. All right, so welcome everyone again to this series, and I would just say what Aisha has not already said about me. I'm Rock. Rock is the most commonly known name, and the other name is actually Josue, not Josui. So yeah, but it's okay. And yeah, so I'm a young engineer. I studied for my master's in mechanical engineering, specializing in energy and power technology from the University of Nigeria in Enugu State. And I uh, have over 6 years of experience, mostly in rural electrification, navigating topics apart from rural electrification, stakeholder engagement, renewable energy policy, innovation, and climate education. Currently, I'm with the GIZ, like you already said. So that's just a bit about me, and I'm very happy to connect with the rest of the group. So today, I'm just going to share a bit about Benin, what you should know about it, and what is the overview of the NDCs, and how is Benin actually tackling the issue of climate action and sustainability and net zero, and what's the current status. And then we will look at a couple of examples because there are so many of them. But I actually, for the sake of this presentation, selected a few ones that I believe that are very relevant, and then some, I would say, personal analysis of the trends and some recommendations that the country could take into account to further its actions in terms of sustainability and climate action and energy transition. So Benin, of course, we are in West Africa, and we have about 12 million inhabitants. I think now it's almost 13 million, but we are just waiting for the official statistics to confirm that. And in terms of energy access, uh, we have about 38% in 2023. And when you look at the statistics in urban and rural settings, the difference is clear. 67 in urban settings and only 11 in rural settings. This is really a huge difference in terms of electricity access. In terms of clean cooking access is even worse. We are talking about 5% of clean cooking in rural areas, while in urban areas we are already about 70% of clean cooking in urban areas. So the latest statistics I could find from the National Energy Ministry's website was this one, showcasing the energy consumption, the final energy consumption split by sectors. And you can see the residential sector, including lighting, cooking, cooling, etc., which takes huge, almost half of the energy consumption in the country. And we have also the transport sector, and then the services. This is public services like health, education, etc. And we also have the industry sector and the agriculture, which is not taking so much. So this is just a glance about Benin and its energy sector at this current stage. Now, looking at the latest version, which is actually the first version submitted by Benin in 2021, they did a study in 2019 to look at the major, they called it the emission registry in 2019. And this was actually looking at what are the sectors that are consuming energy and emitting greenhouse gases. And when you take the emission contributing sectors, agriculture comes at first, energy, then waste and industry and land use. And this is what the, the historical data up to 2019 looks like, and then some projections up to 2030. You can see the baseline scenario, and then this is actually the baseline scenario for each of these sectors, and then the total one, which in 2019 we were about 17 megaton of CO2 equivalent. And if things continue being the way they are, then in 2030 would be about 29 megaton of CO2 equivalent. This is actually an interesting trend that we will look at how to reduce in the coming years. So the clear message in this NDC is that Benin wants to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions from by 48%, almost 49%, not percent, megaton of CO2 equivalent. This is about 20% of the baseline taken from 2016 year. So this will be done between 2021 and 2030. And there's a quite handy of actions that are set to be done to actually get to that state. So you can see here, instead of getting to 29.02 megaton of CO2 equivalent, if you are going business as usual, we would go down to 25.4. This is no matter what we have to reach that goal. It is the unconditional measures, and then there are additional measures that will be taken to reduce it further down to about 23 megaton of CO2 equivalent by 2030. This is the overall goal of Benin. And I have to say that in terms of net zero, Benin has not clearly stated when we intend to reach net zero, because the last COP that was done in November last year, I was actually discussing with the ministry in charge of organizing the national contribution, and they were like, we have to abide with what is ongoing, and most countries are like 2050, but then developing countries like ourselves, we'd say in 2060. And there's actually a current work going on to see if the current plans with this NDC would actually take us or lead us to reaching net zero in 2060. And this is not officially published yet. So I would say, yes, we would abide with the 2060, but then we have to look further what actions need to be implemented to kind of hasten these goals and reach the net zero target by 2060. And now, like I said, there are 4 main sectors that are contributing to the national emissions, and we would now look at what are the plans for each of these sectors. Just briefly, in the sector of agriculture, there is a goal of reducing by almost 30 megaton of CO2 equivalent. This is 51% of reduction with respect to the business as usual scenario. And this would be done by a couple of measures, namely implementing improved agricultural techniques on 5 million hectares for crop production, both for food and bioenergy. And the second action the second objective is implementing soil fertility maintenance techniques in still 5 million hectares in the country between now and 2030, of course. And then promoting water management techniques for irrigation, because one of the issues with climate change, and this is really felt in Benin, is that water for normal agriculture, like we used to do, is becoming very scarce. Rains don't fall when they should fall anymore, and they fall. They kind of overdo when they start to fall, and this is one of the main issues that the farm holders are actually facing. So the government is looking at promoting water management techniques for irrigation. And all of these are part of the plans that are set in this NDC to reduce the emissions in this sector by 51% from now to 2030. Then in the field of energy, the the first action is talking about promoting renewable energy and energy efficiency in various sectors of electricity, in various sectors consuming electricity. This is mainly, like I said, the residential sector and also the transport sector. So we have this kind of transversal goal, promoting renewable energy in all of these electricity consuming sectors. And also when it comes to cooking, promoting cleaner energy sources and energy efficiency in cooking in both urban and rural areas, and then promoting energy efficiency in road transportation. And all of these actions will actually lead to a reduction by 12.15%. This is equivalent to 18.71 megaton of CO2 equivalent with respect to the baseline scenario, as you can see on the chart here. And then the last two sectors, the energy and land use, they are actually looking at reforestation and agroforestry. So this kind of links, the agroforestry kind of links back to the agriculture sector. And here we're having first goal to reduce deforestation by 60,000 hectares per annum. This is actually the baseline, yeah. The 60,000 hectares per annum is the baseline, and then we are looking at reducing it down to 35,000 hectares per annum. And at the same time, trying to reforest 15,000 hectares per annum. And now for the agroforestry, they are planning to implement agroforestry techniques on 50,000 hectares, and for palm plantation. So palm is one of the biggest crops in Benin, and also 60,000 hectares of cashew. So these will lead to a reduction in 40.64 megatons of CO2 equivalent. And in terms of waste, they are planning to implement a waste to energy project in the center of the country, which will take all of the waste, both residential and industrial, from the south to the north. Because if you know, Benin is kind of a long country, so it's easier to link just in one line. So the project will be implemented in the center so that the transport of waste would be kind of easy from both ends. And this will lead to a 0.136 megaton of CO2 equivalent to this waste to energy project. So this is a glance at what are the major objectives of this NTC that was submitted in 2021 in Benin, and how they are going to tackle these to actually reach the goals. And here I've included two links. One is the NDC itself so that you can have a look and read more about what are the actions and what is going on, and even what is the project associated to each of these actions. And then the latest report, the SDG progress report on Benin, which was published in last year, somewhere in the middle of last year. You could also have a look. And now some examples. I've just included them because I felt these were like the major ones you see in the country. The PANA project, the Integrated Adaptation Program on Agricultural Production and Food Security, is one of the biggest and the oldest programs that you will hear about in Benin when it comes to agriculture. And they are building capacity for proper planification in response to climate change effects. So the government, through its donors, support seed production programs for maize, soy, rice, and other crops, and also management of wetlands, because they are actually very suffering in Benin. The wetlands are not in a very good state because they have been overused over the years, and there's a huge need to manage these wetlands so that the people can still benefit from it. And now the reforestation program that has already contributed to planting trees on over 250 250 hectares, and they are still going on. And then improving aquaculture techniques and many other actions that is being done in terms of capacity building of the local population to become more resilient to the climate change. And the ProSol, which is actually a GIZ project, one of the oldest as well, is the soil protection and rehabilitation project to improve food security. And they offer more of training and capacity building, and also they give support to the local communities to kind of secure the land and use it properly for agricultural practices. And the Pro Agri is also one of the GIZ projects. Now they have closed already. They have been there for over 40 years, and last year they actually rounded up the fourth phase and closed. They do more of promotion of agricultural value chains. So in each of the phases, they had focus on some of the value chains. I don't remember them clearly, but there were about 12 of them. So in each phase, they had 3 agricultural value chains to really promote, and then they round up and they take 3 more, and they did 4 phases, and now they're done. And overall, they had institutional support because they worked a lot with the Ministry of Agriculture, training and capacity building for over 15,000 smallholder farmers, and also support to vocational training, many vocational schools across the country. So this is on agriculture. And now looking at the energy sector, there's actually a lot going on here. But one of the, if you ask what is the plan of Benin in terms of energy, or in terms of renewable energy precisely, the PONADE would surely come out as part of the answer. And the PONADE is the National Renewable Energy Development Policy, which actually sets a roadmap to increase the share of renewable energy in the electricity supply and promote energy efficiency. And when we talk about renewable energy in Benin, the 3 main sources that are being showcased are the solar, the biomass, and the hydro. There's from studies, there's no much potential for wind development. So wind is not specifically included in this policy. And you see that the production is set to grow up to 42% of the total electricity demand in 2030. This is almost doubling what we are currently having. And by 2025, the National Electricity Distribution Company has explicitly promised to phase out the gensets for backup, because they usually use gensets for backup. Just for history, the Benin actually had these hydropower plants shared with Togo and Ghana, and also importing from electricity from Benin. And in 2018, 2019, I was part of the team. Luckily, we built the first ever gas power plant in Benin, which was solely owned by Benin. So this was the first power plant, and it happens that these dams or even supply from Nigeria was at times down. So they use gensets to supply power when this kind of situation happen. And now the National Distribution Company is promising to no longer use these gensets, but rather providing this backup electricity from renewable sources. And energy efficiency is also a part of the program, trying to drive down demand by 43% between now and 2035. And here is what is happening in terms of hydropower. So additionally to the plants that are already co-owned by Benin and Togo, and also importing from Ghana and Nigeria, there's this Ajarala plant, which is still somewhere at the border between Benin and Togo, which has been rehabilitated. It's over a capacity of 147 megawatts. And the Dogo Beast, which is in the north of the country, would have a capacity of 128, and this is actually not yet commissioned, though the project was planned since 2018 or 2017, I think. So this is one of the challenges. Projects are planned but not yet operational. And next, in terms of biomass, we have these projects that are also very kind of ambitious. We have these grid-tied biomass plants that is supposed to be built also somewhere in the middle of the country with 6.5 megawatts. And in terms of off-grid biomass plants, there are several sites that have been identified to use agricultural waste to produce energy, and these would have a cumulative capacity of 21 megawatts. The feasibility studies were conducted in 2021, but the project has not explicitly started. Also, in terms of solar, we had in 2022 commissioned the first ever grid-connected PV plant somewhere close to the Nigerian border in the south of the country. It's called Kobe, and it's extensible to 50 megawatts. So currently the capacity is a 25 megawatt, and it's already operational, feeding solar electricity into the grid. And the extension phase is on the planning stage. And this would then finally have 50 megawatts out from this site. And also, there are 4 other sites that are plants across the country with a total capacity of 50 other megawatts that will be connected to the grid. So in the end, we will have about 100 megawatt of solar electricity feeding into the grid. But at this date, I would say it's only 26% to 25 from the Defisol project and other 1.5 from the north of the country, which is commissioned, but even the 1.5 from the north is not yet connected to the grid. So this is what is happening in terms of solar energy grid tied. And when it comes to off-grid, a lot has been going on in this area because off-grid solar energy has been identified as one of the favorite sources or technologies to electrify the country, but both in rural and peri-urban areas. So we have some projects going on. I just listed 3 of them here. The Millennium Challenge Account 2 that just closed last year set the target to build a cumulative of 13.4 megawatts of mini grids and 50,000 pico PV and solar home systems. And so the program was run between 2020 and 2023, but unfortunately, on the pico and solar home system sides, much has been done. I think they reached about 35,000 systems, standalone systems already distributed. But when it comes to the 110 mini grids that were promised, I think about 20 are already operational. The others are still under construction, or some are already finished but not commissioned, not yet operational. And the GIZ NF program where I currently work has been active since 2014, and we are focused on solar home systems and also street electrification and the services. I mean, service by how do you call it? Health centers, schools, etc. So when we do the cumulative of all the PICO and solar home systems that we have been working on since 2014, have about 2 megawatts of solar system spread over the country. And there are 2 projects that were built sometime in 2014 or 2016, thereabout, and the PRODER and the PROVES, I don't remember clearly the names of these projects, and they built about 80 mini grids in the country. And one of the challenges was that these mini grids were built without any plan for operation and maintenance. So they were just built because there was kind of funding, and there was no regulation at that time for mini grids. So after a couple of years serving the communities, these mini grids happened to be obsolete. They started having issues, and the institutional, the governmental agency that was in charge of maintaining them was not having enough funds to do so. So they became obsolete. And now that we have a regulation on mini grids in 2018, that agency, the Rural Electrification Agency, is giving concessions for the private sector to run these mini grids. So they are there, and the private companies will just have permission to operate and maintain them over the years. And when it comes to renewable energy efficiency, there is this program funded by the EU called RECAZEP, and is mainly on capacity building, both institutional and private actors in energy efficiency. And one of the key takeaways from that program was that they built a national energy label based, of course, on the EU standard for home appliances. So today in Benin, if you want to buy your lamp or your AC or your fridge and some other appliances, there's a national label that you can easily look at and see, okay, this appliance is actually 1 or 2 or 3 stars, and you can easily choose what kind of appliance you want to take if you want to save energy in your home. And they also run a national campaign for buildings and industries to help them understand the benefits of energy efficiency. And that's it for the electricity sector. Now coming to clean cooking, there's also a lot going on both in my program and also the Eco Benin. The Eco Benin is also one of the biggest improved cook stoves distribution programs in Benin. But what I just have to say on this slide is that when we talk about clean cooking in Benin, for now it's only talking about fuel efficiency. So we have not clearly started using e-cookers. For instance, we are still using gas in urban areas, and in rural areas, people are using normal cook stoves. Sometimes even just the 3 stones and the wood. So the different programs, including NDEF, where I currently work, they are promoting fuel efficiency by distributing these improved cook stoves to reduce the quantity of fuel or charcoal or wood, whatsoever that is being used. And they are also building capacity for the different actors to kind of standardize the production of these improved cook stoves all over the country. And of course, in my program, we just had a co-financing from the EU to pilot some e-cooking projects in urban areas. And now talking about clean transportation. Also here, a lot is left to do. Like I rightly said here, we don't have, say, electric vehicles yet. All we have for now is 2 private companies doing their normal business, bringing in e-bikes. One is the one on the left is used for how do you call it, the commercial bikes. Like here we call it same, and in Nigeria it's called Okada, I think, and in some part of East Africa it's called Boda Boda. So they use that one for these commercial bikes, and the scooter is used for personal. You can buy it for yourself and charge. But the point here is that the one on the left, they have a battery swap system, so you can ride it for I think 75 kilometers, and then you go to a battery swap shop. If you're lucky to be very close to one, when the battery dies, then you just go there and swap it for, I think, $1.5 or so, and or $2. I'm just trying to do the conversion from CFA to $2 now. And the other one, the scooter, you have a charger, so you can even charge it at home. But the point is, both of them are still being charged on the national grid, which we know is from mainly from fossil fuel, from either from the hydro somewhere in Togo, or even this gas power plant that was built a few years ago. So they still need to first decarbonize this grid that is charging these electric vehicles, electric bikes, and then promote these bikes now. So going from just a few ones in the cities to more in the even in rural areas. And this is one point that in this feasibility study that we are running with the Ministry of Environment, we started in 2023, but the study is still ongoing. A very ambitious project that is going in the country. And if I can just share 2 points in that project, is that all the government fleet, so all the cars in the ministries and governmental agencies and all of these will be changed to electric ones because it's very easy to be done in Benin. Because currently all the governmental cars, vehicles are being supplied by one supplier, only one. So it's very easy. We ask this supplier to give us electric bikes, electric cars instead of uh, fossil fuel based ones. So this is one of the targets of that project. And the second one is to extend the e-vehicles to rural areas. By doing so, they want to implement mini grids on the highways so that when you're riding even to rural areas, you could just stop by a sort of a mini grid, which is solely destined to charging electric vehicle batteries. Then you swap your battery or you wait to charge it for 4 hours, and then you continue your way. But of course, this is very ambitious because we don't even have enough road to start with. So there's still a lot to do in that regard, and this is what this feasibility study will tell us. So this is it. These are just few examples of what's happening in terms of transition, sustainability in the country. And like I said in the beginning, I included some of my personal analysis and recommendations for Benin. The first one, and I actually emphasize on this in almost every meeting I do with the stakeholders, is that the regulatory uh, instruments, the regulatory and policy instruments are very weak in the country. They they exist locally, but they are very weak. They take a lot of time to be applied, both in terms of planning, financing, and implementation. There's a need to actually strengthen these existing tools, first of all, by making the users understand what they mean. Because you happen to see that even the people in the ministries that are applying these instruments don't really understand what is in that document that they are using. So building on that, building those capacities further would help to hasten the planning, financing, and even implementation of different energy transition projects. And also, yeah, same thing. The administrative procedures still related to the policy instruments need to be streamlined so that when a when an international investor or private investor wants to invest in a certain renewable energy project, he knows clearly what will his money be doing in the meantime. So uh, this is like I said, it exists, but it's not really clear what people should do. And for instance, I mentioned these mini grids that were installed without any plan for operation and maintenance. And the problem now is that people want to rehabilitate it since 2020, and we are in 2024, and we have not awarded the contracts for the private companies. So there is a lot to do in terms of financing because this rehabilitation needs money, and the private sector, the private actors have to find partners from outside to fund this thing. But the investors are not kind of convinced about the administrative procedure, and this is one of the main challenges when it comes to regulation and financing. Also, the instruments are kind of very traditional to my view, and they need more of implication of the private actors. I know in Benin we have these rural electrification funds that is being run by the Rural Electrification Agency, but it's not clear what that fund does. We see projects, of course. I won't say that we don't see them. We see projects, but uh, for the budget that we hear about from these rural electrification funds, we expect more. And this is simply because the model that is being run with this money with this money is not really interesting, because they include a lot of social, a lot of studies in the fund that just leads to the actual implementation part having only a very tiny share of the cake. So I think that more of private actors need to be included in these in managing these funds. And also, carbon market is not really developed in Benin. I mentioned in my presentation the Eco Benin, and if you go on the UNFCCC page, you would see that Eco Benin is the only private initiative that is from Benin, that is registered on the voluntary carbon market. And apart from that, you see also that these mini grid, not mini grid, the PV plants that is also registered, but this is registered as a national institutional project. So this market has the potential to finance further climate actions, and we need to look more into this. And last but not least, innovation. I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation that wind energy is not really relevant for Benin, because studies have proven that the potential is not there. But that study, which was done 15 years ago, only focused on the traditional wind system that we know. But a few months ago, even I would say, one of the students in one university in Benin proved a very interesting innovation, and I happened to be there. And it's only about implementing very tiny wind blades across the or along the roads. And this is an interesting project. This is an interesting project because it could help generating electricity from these very tiny wind turbines just by riding. So people are riding, and it's blowing wind against the blades, and electricity is being generated. Of course, it's very simple said, but it's not that simple being done. So we have to explore these innovative approaches to develop renewable energy technologies in the country. And I talked about the micro wind. There's also the nano grid that I'm currently piloting. We are still on the planning stage in my program. There's the micro hydro that some universities also experimented last year, and floating PV, which is not even implemented in Benin. So we have to look at these. What are the innovative ways? What are the new ways that we could deploy renewable energy in the country using the potential that we have? So these are some of the things I feel like Benin could look at if we really want to hasten what we are already doing, and why not reach the net zero target by 2060, like the other developing countries. So this is it. I have come to the end of my presentation, and I hope it was useful and at least informative for you. Thank you very much for your time. If you have some questions, I think we still have a few minutes, I hope so, to take some of the questions. So Aisha, if you're there, over to you.
Thank you very much, Joshua, for this very informative presentation. It was really impactful. I saw myself taking notes like I was in class, which was really interesting for me. There are several questions I would like to ask, but first we'll try to, please, if you have questions, please do well to put it in the chat so we can go over it together and we'll get to understand from there. But in the absence of any question just yet, I think I would ask my own question first. Then we can proceed to answering other people's questions. But once again, thank you very much for your presentation. It was wonderfully done. So yes, you have given some of your recommendations, which was really good. But I saw you say something about financing, and I will take you back to one of the things you mentioned, that it was a solar off-grid system they were not planning for the operations and maintenance. Do you think that private sectors will play a bigger role in this than waiting for external financing or government financing?
Okay, thank you for the question. Yes, I do think that private sector can actually play a role in operating these sites while waiting for external financing. And I say so because I know that some of the sites were built by local companies. So I think four of them, four out of the 80 were built by some local companies, and all the others by international companies that just came to build and go. So it could have been better. It would have been better if these companies were asked to build these uh, these mini grids with already a business plan behind it. But it's easier for a private uh, actor to build a business plan around his project. I'm building this mini grid, and I'm selling the electricity to the community, and I will be selling it at this tariff and getting money from it. This money will surely help me to offset my investment and also make revenues and maintain the sites when it's time to do so. So at this time, what could be done is to call some of these companies, these local companies, to say, okay, do you want to already be operating these sites? And how could you help? I know that it's not easy. It actually requires a lot of money. I'm not sure of the figures, but we are talking about 5 million to a billion CFR by site. So the private actor would need this kind of money to rehabilitate the whole system and start selling the electricity. And for you to invest this kind of money, you need to make sure that in 2 years' time, the government will not come and say, okay, we have found another person to operate the site, so please leave, right? So I really feel that there's a role private companies have to play in that, but they are kind of reluctant because the government has said we will take care of it, and they're just waiting. So this is kind of this balance that is happening right now. But I truly believe in the potential that private actors have in addressing this challenge.
Thank you very
I
much.
hope I have answered your question.
Yes, yes, it has actually. That's a very good answer to it. And yes, you mentioned some things about the policies too. Because when you just, as you're answering, you said that the government would come back and say something different. So the next question I have is more like, how do you think youths can play a part in this? Because financing is big and we're still coming into this sector, but how do you think youths can play a part in us being able to achieve most of these goals we've said that we want to achieve as countries?
Yeah, okay. So the role of young people in the energy transition in Benin or well in Africa or in the world is no longer to be proven because we find that there's a lot of things are changing worldwide, and the agility of young people today is what helps us quickly learn about what is happening and how we could implement these. And I say this because from a personal experience over the last 2 or 3 years, I have learned a lot about financing. If you asked me uh, 5 years ago anything concerning finance, I'm not really part of it. But when I came to the field and I started working on this project, I found out that financing is kind of the most challenging part. And if you really want to make an impact on the work you're doing, you need to further your skills in understanding all the aspects, including this finance. So youth are very important, and how can they do this? How can we do this? Is that we actually need to share knowledge. This is what we are doing here, and also run how do you say advocacy programs. Get to the government, tell them, okay, we feel like this needs to be done, and we use data-driven insights from maybe what is happening. We know that this is an innovative financing scheme that is happening in Sierra Leone, for instance, or even yeah, I mean any country, and we have this data. They have gone from this stage and they implemented this instead of this, and they got to this stage after 2 years. And we have this data that is proving what we're saying, and the government will definitely listen to us because they also want to do the work. And if we are bringing some knowledge to them, they will surely accept to consider what we're saying. So more of advocacy, more of inclusion of the youth in all these planning programs. And I know that in some countries, youth are very engaged in the planning stage of the energy modeling of the countries. And if you take, for instance, the IRENA, I know, sorry, that the planning, the long-term energy system planning team is made of many young people that are focused on different parts of the world. Some are in sub-Saharan Africa, some are in South Asia, etc. So this is what youth can do. The technologies, the tools today that are used to plan for the energy transition are there and are used mostly by youth, by young people. So this is our part of the whole game.
Thank you so much. Like there's been several insightful moments in your speaking. You speak with a lot of knowledge and wisdom, and we'd really like to thank you for gracing our occasion as the first speaker. It's been really wonderful having you here. And despite not being sure of what Benin has or what year they are planning to transit, I'd like to say that they are taking little steps, which is very important and very good for us to learn from. I've taken several notes. I think next meeting I have with any Nigerian in the energy sector, I have a lot of things to tell them because Benin is indeed doing wonderful things and there's need for the world to hear about it too. So thank you once again, Joshua, for having our time. Oh, sorry, Joshua. The English in me doesn't want to call it in French. Merci beaucoup aussi. So at that, I would like to thank you. And please, if you could stop sharing your screen.
Yeah.
We would like to just finalize this meeting and thank everyone for being part of it. It's been really exciting having all of you here. It's been a wonderful 1 hour because learning from everyone is something I'm really glad about and I love to do. So being a part of this has been something really nice for me. So another thing I'd like to say is the next steps. So the next steps is for me. Please, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So the next step is first, please follow us on all our social media platforms. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and also on MySpace, or which is X now, Twitter. So please follow us and share this information with as much people as possible. And also we'll be sending out newsletters. So share it, let people know about this, let all of us do this together because there's always room for partnership. Because from what our guest speaker said, youths, we have a lot to play in this and we are, as they used to say, we're all growing up, we're leaders of tomorrow. So together we are stronger because there's a saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, let's do it together. So please share Margaret out there. Let's do it together. We'll have more upcoming webinars and we'll share information as much as possible. Thank you everyone for joining today. It's been a pleasure. And thank you, my whole team, for being part of this. Margaret, we're really excited to have you all. And thank you for your time. Have a wonderful weekend ahead. Thank you once again.
Thanks and bye. See you in the next series.
Anyway, how am I saying? I'm waiting for those people to go.
I thought that Julius will not go now.
Now me remove
Yes, I
them
thought-
now.
Thank you.
Julius, thank you so much for saving the day.
You're welcome.
Well,
Whoa, we are done.
congratulations.
Hallelujah, I finished our first one.
Wait, so let me stop recording first, I beg.
Baby.